they're trimmers, man. Hey, Rob Brown in Memphis, Brendan Martin in Ocala, Florida. A lot to cover today. It is Monday, May 19th. And my youngest one, Max, turned 25 on Saturday. Happy birthday, Maxwell Polk Brown. Great, Mr. Peanut. Got a big day ahead. Coach Ellis Johnson checks in from over in South Carolina. Jacques Doucet will come in from Baton Rouge in a few minutes. AFB Channel 9, the three-time Louisiana Sportscaster of the Year. And also, Wes Moore checks in from Little Rock, sports anchor at Channel 16 Fox in Little Rock. Also does a great show on 103.7 The Buzz, talking Hogs, SEC baseball, what's going out on the western flank. So, hey, do us a favor. Take a picture of those QR codes with your cellular phone. We're on X, YouTube, Facebook, and we've got a channel that is growing, putting out tons of updated content damn near every day of the week. We're your one-stop source for the SEC. And we have
join us in the chat room, like us, follow us, share us. If you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and like us, follow us, Twitter, follow us. Go ahead and subscribe for free to the YouTube channel. You get all the network stuff there for free. We've got tons of shows coming at you from Auburn to Florida, all SEC sports and more. Going to do some recruiting today with Duke Scoop, and Ronnie Sanders over at Auburn Undercover. Lots to enjoy in this little bit of off season and get ready for a big football season. And with that,
Tom Cruise
is here. Tom Cruise is in the house.
Y'all been saying that for 6 months. I've got 0 casting calls. So you're fired. I'm getting a new agent.
You're fired.
Yeah. You know, you would be great in a movie about college football.
Yeah.
Because you have a veteran SEC coach. You've been a head coach. You're a Citadel grad. Man, I was in Birmingham Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Went out there to that Regions Pro-Am. And lots of the SEC coaches was there. And I was listening to Kirby Smart talk about how much regions and coming to that tournament means. And you know, it was really incredible, the number of people out there at Greystone. And there's Kalen DeBoer and Nick Saban, Paul Feinbaum. We saw John Talty out there who was on Friday. Really, there's no off season. It's just golf season, cookout season. But let's talk some college football, Coach. A lot of top 25s are coming out. And Clemson, by the way, is getting a lot of attention. Cade Klubnik, hell of a quarterback. But let's talk about who you think are the top teams in college football post-spring practice.
Well, I think a lot of it's based upon returning players, depth charts, not that kind of stuff, which really, with the days of the portal, I don't know how accurate it can be. And a lot of them are actually gauging it on who they got after spring practice and after spring practice occurred. So I think you go back and you see the teams that were right there in it at the end of last year. And the first thing I always look at, I hate to admit it as an old defensive coach, but I look at who's got a returning, starting, experienced, productive quarterback, whether it's theirs or they got one out of the portal. Because it just is so critical. Football today, I mean, you can win and you can upset some people maybe along the way, but you can't win championships without a really good quarterback. I keep seeing Penn State up there. And when I look at their overall roster, it's hard to debate that. But my times I saw Drew Aller, I just didn't see it. I don't know if he's a national championship quarterback. After you get past that, I mean, I think Clemson's got a good roster, and Klubnik to me is, when he's on, he's as good as there is. He did it last year with really no running game the last half of the season. So, I mean, what he did against Texas in that playoff game with no running game was phenomenal. But I'd put Penn State and Clemson up there, and I think Georgia's going to always be there if the quarterback comes along and can be a good enough player to fill those shoes. And I think after that, I go back to Ohio State. And I know they had some huge losses, but their recruiting class and their portal would fill up those pretty quickly.
All right, and you talk about the quarterback being so important. Flipping over to the defense. In the past, you could say they're 2 and 3 deep on the front seven across the board. And that would always be like music to your ears. Like, okay, I feel good about it. Now, that guy that used to be second team or third team at Florida or Georgia is first team at Indiana or SMU or Boise. Uh, but I'm also starting to look at some critical breakdown on numbers. I don't think Georgia and Alabama, and I looked at Auburn. Now, Florida had a couple of losses. I mean, Pyburn going to LSU, that hurt. They had two big ones. But you're starting to see those big schools keep the guys that they want. And as a coach, guys always are going to leave. The standard for me is 37 in one spring practice that left. Auburn, Dye's first spring practice, 37 guys left. 44 when Pruitt got let go at Tennessee and Josh Heupel came in. So we've seen a lot worse.
Yeah, those mass exodus when coaching changes or new coach coming in, a little bit different than what we're seeing today. But there are two main reasons if a kid sticks around. It's either money or playing time.
Yeah.
And you hit it on the head when you first started. I think one of the biggest things you notice about college football today is they don't have these tremendously deep defenses, especially in the front, because the guys, like you said, the guys won't hang around. They go somewhere where they can play. And whether they're getting more money or not, if they're not getting on the field, they don't stay. So I look at Clemson in particular. I get to see them practice a lot. And I can't say they're not a national championship possibility because they've got talent, skilled talent, and Klubnik and a lot of things, kind of dynamic in the right positions. But they don't have the kind of quality depth up front on defense that they've had in some years past. And the reason is they can't stockpile them anymore. The kids won't stay. They go somewhere where they're going to play. Now, they don't leave Clemson very often. Dabo's not big in the portal.
Yeah.
And, if you're not bringing in a bunch of portal kids, it slows down the exit too, because kids know you're not just going to go once they're developing in that sophomore year. They know you're not going to go grab a senior somewhere and put the guy on the bench another year. They're going to give you your shot, and you better produce. So they stay to play.
Yeah. And Jacques Doucet is going to be in here momentarily as soon as he's in from Channel 9 in Baton Rouge, covers LSU and the SEC, knows that program really well. And Jacques, good morning. One of these days, I tell you what I'm going to do. I am going to study some Cajun French, and I'm going to speak to you in Cajun French when you come on this show. By the way, I watched the show on Channel 10 in Memphis about the Gulf Coast, Louisiana, what they're doing with all the oyster shells to reinforce the beds and stuff for the estuaries down there. Is it true that Lake Atchafalaya is the pantry for Cajun cooking? Is that a fair statement?
You talking about the Atchafalaya Basin?
Atchafalaya Basin, yeah.
Lafayette and Baton Rouge. Yeah, you can definitely go take a swamp tour down there and get on a boat and go see some. I tell you what, though, I live right here on the Mississippi River, and the levee's right here, about a half a mile up from my house, and I go walking and jogging up there, and I've seen some big alligators the last, couple weeks. They're coming out, but as my grandfather would say, they're more afraid of you than you are of them. So they seem to take off when they see a human. But Atchafalaya Basin area, you'll get some great food, and you'll get some chanky chank, as we call it, Cajun music being played over there. So that's kind of the essence of Louisiana. You don't want to, no offense to our friends in Monroe and Shreveport and Alexandria, but that's not exactly what they specialize in.
No, not at all. Hey, Coach Ellis Johnson's on here. We've been talking about the preseason top 25s that are coming out. I've seen LSU in some top fives right now. And, you got to have a quarterback. You've got that in Garrett Nussmeier, a rarity, a unicorn, a fifth-year senior at the same school who grew up in Lake Charles?
Yeah, I think he eventually played high school ball in Texas, maybe,
Okay.
But he did grow up in Lake Charles, definitely. I know his mother, her maiden name was Hebert. Okay. Bobby Hebert, the former Saints quarterback. Yeah. He likes to bring that up. Yeah, and I think Clemson is pretty high on these preseason polls too, right? Somebody told me that they might even be number one in one of those polls.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the season opener. LSU's going to Clemson, first game August 30th. So, Garrett Nussmeier, this will be his second year as the starter. He's been at LSU for a very long time, as I think I've talked to you about. He was following up Joe Burrow, and then since he's been on the team, now he's following up Jaden Daniels from Arizona State. So he's following up two Heisman Trophy winners at his school at the same position. So that's a lot to follow up. So I think there's a lot of hope in what he can do from year one to year two as a starter. We saw with Joe Burrow the amount of improvement he made. We saw with Jaden Daniels the amount of improvement he made. Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver from Walker High School here, who's now doing a great job with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He had a autograph session, a little meet and greet yesterday at Dick's Sporting Goods, and I went and chatted with him about it, and he feels confident that Nussmeier can make that jump. So, yeah, it starts with the most important position on the field at quarterback. I think LSU's got a really good one there. Garrett is not a guy who runs a whole lot, or he hasn't been a guy that runs a whole lot. I think that's because he's not a fantastic runner. No one may ever run like Jaden Daniels did. But also, I think there's fear about him getting hurt. You don't want to lose your starter because he's obviously far and away the most important guy on this team. But, yeah, they've got a veteran leader, veteran presence there. And, I was at a speaking engagement the other day. Somebody asked me if Brian Kelly was on the hot seat or this and that. And I was like, well, there'd be 6 years left on his contract after this year, guaranteed at $10 million a year. I said, so maybe a lot of the fans might fire him, but the administration firing him, that's a different story.
Yeah. Well, it's and we didn't see a single coach fired this past season. Coach Johnson, what Jacques is saying about LSU, that matchup opening weekend against Clemson, prime time, that's going to be Chris Fowler, I think Kirk Herbstreit, that crew. What's bigger, that or Texas at Ohio State in the big noon game, which, in my opinion, in that time slot, and I like to bet, that favors the visiting team.
Yeah, that's hard to say which one of those is the biggest. I think that the team that wins those gets a big boost, a lot of confidence, a lot of national attention. If you lose it, it kind of puts a little bit of impediment in your ability to come back and, play for championships. But I think that it can be made a little too much out of it when you look at the whole season. But those are two games that I think, because of the returning players and all 4 minute playoff material, great quarterbacks and all that, I think it's hard to say which one would be the best game, but that's two heck of matchups right there.
It is. And Jacques, you look at LSU on the defensive front. Bo Davis has gone to the Saints, and we talked about it last week. There's just a lot of back and forth between the Saints and LSU that they both, the fans are married to each other. But talk about the defensive line, because that's been a staple for LSU. And when you've got a roster that's 2 and 3 deep, you're automatically at LSU. You're in the hunt for the championship. But who has a roster like that anymore? And does LSU?
Well, yeah, to your point, the Saints and LSU have had an interesting relationship, I think, over the years. Certainly if you grow up in Louisiana like I did, you root for LSU on Saturday and you root for the Saints on Sunday. And this year, you'll be rooting for the Saints on Sunday because they got 0 primetime games. The NFL didn't put them on Monday Night Football, didn't put them on Thursday Night Football, didn't put them on Sunday Night Football. And I don't blame them because they're not a very attractive primetime team at this point. The Drew Brees era is long behind us. So, the Saints have not drafted LSU guys over the years. They've passed on a lot of LSU guys, and that's kind of ticked off LSU people. I was at Patrick Queen's draft party. I remember the Saints were on the clock, and they had always dreamed about him going to the Saints, and then the Saints passed, took someone else, and then Queen went to the Ravens. But and then now, the coach being taken, and Bo Davis, after just 1 year coaching the LSU defensive line, going to the Saints. But I think that with Kyle Williams now coaching the D-line, who, of course, was an LSU great, played on the 2003 National Championship team, was in the NFL for 13 years with the Buffalo Bills, was a 6-time NFL or Pro Bowler, I should say. So they've got some young pieces there on the defensive line. Rashad Bro was a guy that he coached up at Ruston High School, who put on a lot of weight, who needs an NIL deal with Whataburger, because he said that every day he was getting one of those jalapeno double burgers with like 3 large fries. Weight. I'm not sure if his blood work is what it needs to be eating that stuff every day, but he put on the weight. And Dominic McKinley from Lafayette and a few other guys. So there were a few people that joked that they should have erected a statue for Bo Davis for getting what he got out of the defensive line last year, because we thought it was going to be a disaster from what they lost to the NFL and what they did not get in the portal. So yeah, starts in the trenches. LSU's always had a strong tradition, I think, in the last 20 years, especially on the defensive line. Your Glenn Dorseys, your Michael Brockers, other guys, Daniil Hunter there as well. So, we'll see what happens there.
Mason Smith was a guy that had no ceiling. We thought he got hurt, and his career was kind of strange. What's the latest update on him?
Well, he's with the Jaguars, right?
Okay.
He got taken not in this past draft, but the previous draft. And I think a lot of people kind of were like, what is he doing going pro? And I guess it's 32 teams. All it takes is one to fall in love with you. And I think they took him in the second round. Matt House, who not a popular guy in these parts. People blame the defensive coordinator of the 2023 team when LSU had Jaden win the Heisman, and they had Malik Neighbors at wide receiver, Brian Thomas at wide receiver, scored a lot of points, could not stop anybody. He was the defensive coordinator of that group. He got fired after a couple of years and went to Jacksonville. And I think Jacksonville drafted a couple guys from LSU, and one of them being Mason Smith, who, when he came in, all the previous LSU defensive linemen, or a lot of them that I talked to, thought this guy was the next coming. He was going to be the next big thing. I don't know what he did this past year with the Jags, but I do know he was a second-round pick.
Yeah. Coach, can you shed some light on this? Because he just talked about Matt House, and you talked about these guys that come from the NFL back to college, and then the guys that go from college to the pros. What is so hard about going from the NFL to the SEC? Because you see athletes that are very similar to what you see in the NFL, but break it down if you can.
Well, the coaching aspect of it, I think sometimes people don't realize how similar it is, just coaching the football part. The biggest thing I've seen when NFL guys come back to college, if they've been on that level before, it's an easy adjustment.
Yeah.
If they've never coached on the college level, and I've seen a lot of pro players, great players, and hung around a team for a couple of years and then started trying to coach. They have a tremendous difficulty with the amount of time recruiting takes out of their routine. They're not used to it, and I've seen some of it just seems to break their concentration on coaching. They don't want the distractions. They don't want to have to go off and spend that much time on the road when they're involved in something. You go sit around a pro staff sometime. I mean, they are meticulously breaking down things, reviewing previous seasons, studying future opponents. And in the off season in college, I mean, you do some of that, but you're out trying to find 18-year-olds and 17-year-olds, and it's a whole different routine for them. And a lot of them really don't adjust very well.
Yeah.
But I mean, the coaching of the X and O's and the coaching of the football players on the field and all that, obviously you could get a little more technical the better the player is, but it's not that much difference at all.
Yeah. Jacques, you were talking about coaches and how hard it is to keep players, but when coaches come and go, the last 10 years, if you look at when Les Miles was at LSU, the question was, why can't they get a great quarterback? And we all remember Josh Booty coming out of Shreveport Evangel and some great ones over the years. But the quarterback position at LSU with Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels, I mean, they put up video game numbers. I mean, that's an overused, statement, hyperbole, whatever. But is the greatest offensive coordinator, passing game coordinator you've ever seen been Joe Brady when he was there that 1 year at 29 years of age?
Well, he's a really interesting topic. When LSU got him, Sean Payton, the coach of the Saints at the time, was kind of like, well, he's a guy we relied on occasionally for this and that, and kind of sounded like he was a guy getting coffee and didn't have a whole lot of input. But came to LSU, put this offense in. Steve Ensminger, former LSU quarterback, he was technically the offensive coordinator. He called the plays. But Joe Brady got a lot of credit. I sometimes wonder if Joe Brady got too much credit or not. But, Joe Brady, to Coach's point, I think that Joe Brady's a guy that kind of signifies the difference between college and pro. I think Joe Brady wanted to be in a building coaching football. And when you're a college coach, as Coach Johnson would know, you've got to maybe go around the state and go on a Bama tour or an Auburn tour and, kiss babies and shake hands with people and boosters and schmooze people and talk and whatnot. And Joe Brady, that just wasn't his thing. I think he didn't really want to recruit. I don't think he really wanted to get into all that. He just wanted to coach ball. But, that offense in 2019 was unstoppable for the most part. I mean, they didn't punt very often. And it was interesting. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who was the feature back on that team, basically said we had one rushing play. It was zone read. We just ran that thing all year long. That was the one running play we had, Yeah. And so when you throw into to Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, and oh, by the way, Terrace Marshall, he was a pretty big he was a high draft pick. You had other guys who were, and this is the difference now. I don't think in today's NIL world you're going to have third teamers, fourth teamers of this magnitude because they're not going to stay. They're going to go somewhere else, get paid. The depth is not going to be there. Stephon Sullivan, local kid. I think he's still in the NFL or whatever. I don't think he caught a pass in 2019. Maybe a handful of passes. But, you had Thaddeus Moss, Randy Moss's kid at tight end. He had been hurt, and then someone's got to be open, Rob. So, I mean, he caught his share of passes too. So, yeah, it was an unbelievable offense that year, and the yardage they racked up. And they went to Alabama, which, for years, to your point, after Matt Flynn led LSU to the national championship in 2007, the quarterback play between 2007 and 2019 was very, held them back. LSU and Alabama lined up. LSU was on par with Alabama in most spots except the quarterback position. Yeah. We always joked, Alabama can't find a kicker. LSU can't find a quarterback. I know which one's more important. So anyway, so finally they find this Burrow guy, and the rest is history there. But and then Jaden Daniels comes in. The only two guys that have beaten Alabama at quarterback since 2007. The LSU's only, I think. Justin Jefferson beat Bama in 2010, and they beat him in 2011. So I take that back. But for the most part, LSU's quarterback play could not score against Bama, could not win.
Yeah. We're going to have Greg McElroy speaking tonight at the Touchdown Club in Memphis. We do a spring speaker series, and be him this week, and Cole Kubelik next after that. Tyler Siskey, who's been at Alabama and Ole Miss, and then we'll have Roman Harper on at the end. But, Coach, I'm going to ask Greg McElroy that question tonight. Say, would you put this one to rest? People say someone's a game manager. Well, all quarterbacks need to be a game manager, and some of them, like you, have a national championship ring to show for it. Why is it, Coach, that people think Joe Burrow, the numbers he put up, 5,700 yards, I've never seen that. I think Cam Ward had 6,000 plus yards at Incarnate Word in San Antonio before he went to Washington State and Miami, became the number one pick. But kind of shed some light on that game manager. What would you want?
Well, it's hard to add anything to what Jock said about LSU, but don't forget they had this guy, Joe Burrow, and I think that Joe was a lot more important than the other one. Their roster was just unbelievable. And Steve Ensminger, I've been around Ensminger before. He's sharp. He deserved a lot more credit. But everybody on that football coaching staff deserves some credit for that one. But I think if a player's kind of limited in his ability to make these dynamic plays with his feet and throw the football 80 yards, every other week and hit a 9 route or something like that, he'll quickly get that brand of game manager. And usually, though, he's probably successful.
Yeah.
If he's not successful at either one of those, he's not playing. But, Greg was not untalented. He was smart, he was tough, and he was accurate with football. So, you can call him a game manager because he can't run the way Cam Newton could, or he can't throw the way Joe Burrow could. But he was a heck of a quarterback. Actually coached against him 2 years in a row there. But and they had 2 NFL running backs in the backfield. That year he was a senior. And so, what are you going to do? You're going to let them touch the ball 50 times between the two of them, or are you going to let Greg have it every time? So I think that sometimes made him a little more of a game manager than he really was.
Yeah. Great. That makes total sense. Jacques, I know you've got about 5 minutes before you got to go to another appearance. Let's talk about the LSU baseball Tigers. They're one of the top 4 seeds in Hoover. I just got back from Birmingham Friday night. I don't know if I'll be able to get back down this week, but we'll have Mitch Davis there. When are you heading to Hoover?
Well, John Eads, who works for us, he's going to head over there Wednesday, I think. I think LSU is going to practice at Hoover High on Thursday and then play a game at 6:30 on Friday night. So LSU have a nice long break between the last game they played, which was Saturday in Columbia, South Carolina against their ex-coach Paul Maneri. Took 2 of 3 from the Gamecocks, and we'll play on Friday night. I think a lot of people feel like they're a top 8 national seed at this point, but it wouldn't hurt to go to Hoover and win at least 1 game on Friday, maybe 2, to lock that up for sure. Interesting format this year in which all 16 teams get into the SEC tournament. I don't know how that will help or hurt attendance. I think I talked to you about that last week. If I'm a fan and I'm not guaranteed my team playing 2 games, I'm not sure I'm going to hop in a car and drive over to Hoover if I'm only going to get 1 game, as opposed to maybe 2 in a double elimination bracket. So, but anyway, I'm sure it'll be it's a great event. Hoover does a great job with it. I know there's always some talk about should they move it around or get it out of Hoover, but I've always felt they do an A-class job. It's kind of the first taste of summer. You see the kids running around on the hills, chasing the foul balls and eating ice cream and all that. It's a good family atmosphere and good family event.
Yeah, we're going to find out how many of those people that are there are locals versus how many of them are coming, because nobody travels baseball like LSU does with the RVs, and the Hoover people absolutely love the purple and gold. So Jock, that is a hell of a question about the attendance this year. I mean, 1 game, you're out, but everybody's involved. And I don't know how many Texas people will be here. Of all the teams that you've seen, who do you think are going to be the surprises? Who has to do the most in Hoover to get a regional, or at least to host a regional and then be in contention ultimately, obviously, for a super regional?
Man, you should have asked somebody else that question, Rob.
Don't ask me.
Yeah, let me look here. I pay attention to the purple and gold and not much else.
But it's just, you've seen a lot of baseball this year. What team impressed you the most that LSU played?
Well, I mean, we saw Arkansas come in here a couple of weeks ago. They were loaded, and LSU took 2 of 3.
Yeah.
Wes Johnson, I think the job he's done at Georgia in a short period of time is pretty impressive. LSU's pitching coach for 1 year. I thought that was real interesting. The guy got a job as a head coach in his early 50s. He'd never been a head coach before, and I just thought he didn't want to be a head coach. I mean, he had been a great pitching coach in the majors and at LSU, and goes to Georgia. I think they were number 1 in the country, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm looking at these standings right now. I mean, it's a cliche to say that it's this much separating number 1 and number 8 or 9 or 10, but that's the case. I mean, Texas had your top record of 22-8. Arkansas 20-10, LSU 19-11. Then you got Vandy 19-11, Georgia 18-12, Auburn 17-13, Ole Miss 16-14. You're just going down the line. I mean, Missouri had a horrific year at 3-27, and so did South Carolina at 6-24. But Texas A&M, for example, I think that this tournament's very important to them in terms of where they can go. So. It's an exciting time of year, especially Monday, Memorial Day, when they announce the brackets. Everyone gets their assignment, where they're going, who they need to beat. College baseball has come leaps and bounds over the years, as opposed to, it used to being just a secondary sport. And that, Skip Bertman, Ron Polk, those people obviously deserve a lot of credit.
Well, I mean, 7 national championships at LSU baseball, 5 with Skip Bertman, 1 Paul Maneri, and now Jay Johnson's got 1. And you go back to Augie Garrido at Texas and Ron Ditto at Southern Cal, who won like 11. But that's back when college baseball was just sort of a sidebar. Now, LSU has, 40-plus media members that follow that team. I mean, you're one of them. And it's become a huge game. But, Jacques.
Well, I'll do a quick Skip Bertman impersonation for you. He said he went to his first baseball game. Ooh, all I heard was birds, chirping, and people. They'd watch the game like this. When they stare at it, no one smiled, no one's having any fun. The PA announcer couldn't understand a word he was saying. So that's what it was back then. It was like one step above intramural stuff. I mean, I used to hear stories about the previous LSU coach. He had like a garden planted like down foul territory or something. It was just the joke. Skip changed all that.
Yeah, you've got one of the. I mean, it's a dynasty, and it is. LSU baseball comes to Hoover. That's going to be important. And here's the thing: if it doesn't work this year with the everybody's invited single game elimination, they can change it right back, and they'll know. Yeah. But I'm just curious. That is going to be the thing to watch. Now, you might be over there later in the week, correct?
Well, John's going to be there the whole time.
Okay, so you don't have to be. Okay. But
yeah, he'll cover. I've done that many, many, many times. I've walked up and down those steps and done all that, so it's fun. It's great. But I'm 48. He's 24. He can handle it.
Well, our good friend Frank Duffy has said he's got the boudin and all the food ready for you to come visit with him when he goes to Baton Rouge. As he told his wife, Rhonda, look, if we're going out to California and going out west on this dream trip, but if the Tigers go to Omaha, we'll just go there for a few days. 12 days in Omaha. He called me on the way home. He goes, Bobby, I'm 28 days from home, and I've basically given up all my privileges until football season. But what a run, man. Thank you.
Burned all his hall passes in one sitting.
Yeah. How can people follow you?
WAFB.com and Jacques Talk on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter, X, at Jacques Doucet, and on Facebook as well. Coach, great seeing you. And Rob, you too.
Thank you, man. See you next week. Appreciate everything you do for us. Let me say something about Winter Timber Outdoors, folks. It is hot. Turkey season pretty much wrapped up throughout the South, but it's always snake season down here. Get your snake boots, all your outdoor gear. Winter Timber Outdoors in Athens, Alabama, on the top of the state, right there between Florence and Huntsville in Athens, Alabama. Their plan is simple. They're going to grow in the footprint that's the Southeastern Conference. 13,000 square foot store under construction on University Drive in Auburn, Alabama, Lee County down there. So you're going up 85, stop off late July. They should open the doors in a 13,000 square foot store. All your outdoor hunting and fishing needs, your gear, never too early to get your deer stands, your food plots ready for your horned friends when they want to come see you in the fall. Bow season, gun season, they got it all covered. And again, all your outdoor coolers, Yeti, Sitka gear, Dixie decoys, duck camp, they've got you covered. And the St. Nick's knives, some of the finest handmade knives you will find anywhere at Winter Timber Outdoors. We'll bring in Wes Moore from Little Rock here momentarily. There you are, Wes. No, Jacques, Coach, this is Wes Moore, sports anchor, sports director, Channel 16, Fox in Little Rock. Also does a great daily show on the Buzz in Little Rock, covers the Hogs, the SEC, kind of everything. You also do you still do some play-by-play for University of Central Arkansas?
Yeah, I do a little bit of that, and I'll be doing the high school baseball and high school softball championships this weekend in Conway. So, yeah, I kind of dabble in a little bit of everything, Rob.
Yeah. Well, what I love about it is Jacques Doucet was on just before you from WAFB Channel 9 in Baton Rouge. You can't get better, having worked in TV myself for a couple of years and then interning and, being up at 2:30 or 3 in the morning to be there at 4 o'clock for the producer to make sure nothing went wrong on the morning show. You work a lot of 16, 18-hour days. Coach Johnson, you did the same thing in your 40-plus year coaching career. I got to ask you, Wes, Tom Mars is a well-known attorney in Little Rock. And Jackie Sherrill told us a couple of years ago, he was the one who pushed the transfer portal, which became the law of the land October 15th of 2018. Now, Arkansas, I believe, has retained him to go after Madden Iamaliava. And what's the latest on that? And isn't it kind of funny? Tom Mars is kind of going a 180, not a 180, but, that's life, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that's lawyers, right?
Yeah.
Actually, the latest is there's nothing new on it. In fact, Hunter Yurchek this past week, they had the One Razorback Road Show, and he made appearances all across the state. And so he was asked about it, And he said, honestly, he hadn't heard from the lawyer, Mars, and then he hasn't called him. He said, I'm honestly been so busy with the road show, and they're cutting their budget and trying to raise revenue, and anticipating the settlement in Congress to where they got to come up with $20+ million. So
Yeah.
said, I haven't heard anything, so there's nothing new to talk about with the lawsuit.
Yeah. Well, and I know Coach can identify with this. Bobby Petrino really liked Madden Iamaleava. Talk about the quarterback position there, the quarterback room, because when you're a second-year quarterback with Bobby Petrino, great things tend to happen. And have you had much of a chance to talk with Coach Petrino?
Yeah, we've heard him, and he's talked during spring practice. And, honestly, that's what the fans' hope and the fans' belief in this team this season all is around is Taylor Green in year 2.
Yeah.
I mean, because honestly, they lost 30-something players in the portal. They signed 30-something players from the portal. Well,
Yeah.
The way spring ball is these days, it's hard to tell, are these guys any good? We don't know. I mean, they went out and signed like 7 new wide receivers, Rob, and I have no idea if they're any good. And we're not going to know until probably the second, third week of the football season. So all we know is Taylor Green is back, and he is their best player. And it is year 2 with Bobby Petrino. And that's when you see the most growth in his offense with a quarterback in the second year. And then you throw in a dynamic quarterback like Taylor Green. That's what gives you hope that this season can be better than it was last season.
Yeah. Coach, hearing him talk about that year 2 under Bobby Petrino, did you ever have a chance to scheme against his offenses?
Yes, too many times. I tell you, the thing that was always different about him was if he ever could protect his quarterback on a 7-step drop, you couldn't cover his route concepts. Every route had a cover beater. So if he could protect the quarterback, and like y'all are talking about that second year, the kid knows what he's looking at and he knows what Bobby's teaching him, and he's got his presence about him. You can't stop the passing game because there is a route in this call to beat man, and there's a route in this call to beat cover 2, and there's a route in this call to beat 3 deep. There's a route in this call if you get blitzed. And you watch a young quarterback, he will struggle in that offense. But you get one that can play and has got a little experience, and Bobby can protect him. You can't cover those routes. It's the toughest concept in the drop back throwing game. And a lot of college coaches don't fool with that. They just don't ever try to get that complicated. But he was always much harder to stop than most coordinators I ever coached against.
Yeah. Wes, then you start thinking about the running back position. How deep is the running back room? And again, you lost 30 or so and you brought in 30 or so. And how are they doing in terms of adjusting? Like the old Dominic Memphis shirt that you're wearing there down on. Have you been to the distillery?
No, they came over. They were on my radio show and brought us some samples and brought us a T-shirt. And it's one of my favorite T-shirts. It's so soft. You got like those thin, soft T-shirts. Wear the heck out of it.
Yeah, hell yeah. Well, what about the running back room for the Hogs? Because Sam Pittman, if I'm Sam Pittman and I've got Bobby Petrino on my staff, I feel like really confident in his job and his abilities. I'm going to go dial in on the offensive line. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, well, the priority was fixing the offensive line. I'm glad Coach pointed that out. And they do feel like, in fact, Coach Pittman spoke with us Thursday in Hot Springs, and he said that the most improved position group on the team is the offensive line. And they went out and signed a left tackle from Georgia Tech that was one of the best left tackles in the portal. They moved their left tackle, which Fernando Cremona did a good job at left tackle for Arkansas last year, but the NFL projects him as a guard. So they moved him to left guard. They went and signed a center from the portal that did not give up a sack last year or pressure from Central Florida. And they feel like their right guard and right tackle is taken care of. So they feel like they have improved their offensive line tremendously. Running back, you got Braylon Russell back, the freshman from Arkansas. He had one of those, I guess these days you just got to expect it. He went into the portal, got out of the portal, went into the portal, got out of the portal, and he's back. And we think he's happy, and he's going to be one of their 2 running backs They signed another running back out of the portal that has been a pleasant surprise. So they have some bigger backs. They got a speed back. So they feel good at running back position. But once again,
Washington kid for myself. I want to see how legit he is. It's kind of like Jaquindon Jackson last year. No one knew what they were getting with Jaquindon Jackson.
All right.
He turned out to be a good running back.
Let's see. Wes, you might want to try to reboot and come back in. We lost your signal. But I think what Wes is saying, Coach, makes a lot of sense. And it's also the truth of what's happening today is guys going in and out, in and out. You can't be on the fence. You've got to be committed. Now, again, you've got kids this age, and mine are. I mean, it ain't the kids, it's the system, and the adults are letting it happen. I noticed being around the coaches at the Regions Pro-Am out at Greystone Wednesday. You know, you see Kirby Smart, you see Kalen DeBoer, Hugh Freeze, you see Nick Saban. You know, they're not changing the way they coach or anything like that. But the system is making it tougher to enforce the rules. I like this breakdown. I love the strategy. A lot of people like to sound really smart. Like if I talk to people about tranches and scattergrams and 200-day moving averages without explaining to them what that means to them personally, I'm going to lose my client. They're like, speak English. If I talk to my 96-year-old dad about gigabytes and DRAM, he's like, boy, speak English to me. He doesn't like that. Talk about a route tree, Coach. Again, Brendan and I marvel, and so does everybody watching this show, at your intelligence, and you understand all this minutia, but break down a route tree and why that's so important in college football.
I got a lot of scars that pick up all that information too. But when you talk about a route tree, excuse me, that's the terminology that people use describing what a position. In other words, let's say the X receiver, which is usually your weak side, outside receiver.
Yeah.
The route tree, or every route that he has to learn how to run. In other words, he's got a quick out, he's got a 9 route, he's got a hook, he's got a 15-yard sideline. So every player has a tree of routes that he has to be able to run to play in that offense. Now, what I was talking about a while ago with Petrino was his route package. In other words, when you drop back in the pocket, you get 4 out, you get 5 out. How many receivers are going to be in the scheme? Well, as much as he can, he's going to get 5 players out. And if you'll go back and check his history, he has a lot of throws to running backs. And that's because that running back's check down, when you can't find it. And within the route concept, each play, he's got a cover beater somewhere, either the tight end on a drag or the Z on a in route or the X on a takeoff or whatever the route package may be on that particular play. If the quarterback knows what he's reading and he's reading the defense, if he knows what he's reading, he knows which route to go to. And the route will be open if it's run correctly. Yeah. Now, what's the difficulty? The difficulty is you're trying to protect him with 5 linemen. And it takes longer to get it off. Now, when I say longer, it's a difference in 2 seconds and 3.5 seconds. Now, that's a lot of time when you got somebody coming off the edge on you. But that's what I was talking about. Is his concepts are really, really difficult to defend. And the key is he's got to be able to protect. And listening earlier, sounds like they've got a pretty good offensive line if they can keep them healthy. Yeah. That's not good news for their opponents.
Yeah, Wes, I remember in 2010 when Arkansas was down at Auburn. Auburn had, that was a hell of a game. Ryan Mallett out of Texarkana, who'd gone to Michigan, came back. His uncle played college football with a good friend of mine, Tommy Christenberry at Arkansas. He was from Parkin, Arkansas, where our farm is, where we are right now. And I tell you, I remember when Ryan Mallett went down against Auburn in 2010, and a backup quarterback, Tyler Wilson, out of Greenwood, right outside of Fort Smith, came in. I'm like, I think he was 17 of his first 18 passes. That's when, and I'd already seen Bobby Petrino in 2002, that one year at Auburn. Talked to some people that played for him, were on the staff, and they said, This guy is extraterrestrially good.
Yeah, and Tyler Wilson, to what coach was talking about, man, he was one of the toughest quarterbacks I ever remember, man. He would stand in the pocket, and the offensive line wasn't great, but he would stand in the pocket and wait and wait and wait. He took so many shots, but he was doing what coach was talking about. He was waiting for that route to come open. He knew that was going to be the route that would be open and would deliver the ball. Toughest quarterback ever.
Yeah, he is.
That's a great question. You know, that 30 days at Arkansas when I was there with Bobby, Ryan Mallett came in for his visit. He was transferred down from Michigan, and of course his parents. Dad was a girls' basketball coach, I think. Mom had been a coach, but Mom was running that show. She was tough, man. She knew her recruiting too. But he came to visit, and then I remember going into Greenwood High School with Tim Horton. And
Yep.
where Tyler played, they had 3 kids on that team that we tried to offer. But in that short 30 days, I guess I should quit criticizing these kids for going in the portal, because I came to Arkansas and stayed 31 days, and I took off to South Carolina. So I guess I'm a portal kid myself.
Well, Wes is about 6'5", 232, solid muscle out of Jacksonville, Texas. Wes, did you ever go in the portal?
No, nope. I fulfilled my duties. You know,
No,
I'm old school.
Yeah. But I'm telling you, you've been at Channel 16 now, 19 years.
Oh, I've been at 6. I've been in Little Rock for 22 years. I guess I did enter the portal. I was at Channel 11, the CBS station, for 9 years. Went into the portal and went over to Fox, and I've been at Fox now for about 12 years.
Yeah. Well, we all do that at some point, but I think that's really fascinating. I think so many people say, Brown, get these coaches when you got them on. And Wes, you're like a coach, because I watch your work, and I've got a lot of friends in Little Rock that, Jeff Heimbach and his wife, Mariana, told me about you when I was looking for someone in Little Rock to help us cover stuff. And I know you're busy, but we'd like to get you on more and more. You really understand the high school. You understand what I call you. You also cover the Western flank. You're closer to Missouri, to Oklahoma. About folks. I think you've got to the hatred of Texas and Arkansas.
Ooh.
I mean, God, Coach,
Hey,
there's respect in the Iron Bowl. There's nothing but hatred with Arkansas and Texas. That's a rivalry that's on another level. It's crazy.
Yeah, 3 weeks ago when Texas came up here for the 3-game series, the Arkansas won the first 2 games, won the series. That wasn't good enough. They want to sweep Texas. They want to absolutely demolish them, demoralize them, and that's exactly what happened. They went out and won that game 3, swept the number 1 team in the nation, and man, all was good in the state of Arkansas for a week because they swept Texas.
Yeah. Well, $14 a bushel rice, bean prices up, hogs sweeping Texas. You can't get any better than that. I'm looking now, Oklahoma being in the league. Everyone always has thought that Arkansas and Oklahoma, that's this long stand. I think they played 16 times since 1892. I would like to see them play every year. I think that would be really, I think it's about 7.5. What is it to Oak City from Memphis? 7 or 8 hours. I've done it on I-40. But when you cross from Arkansas into Oklahoma, the first sign you see is 10 Killer State Recreation Area on your right. What do you think about bringing in those schools? Does Arkansas now feel like, hey, we're not the furthest school out, we're more in? I think it's been good also to have Texas in, because you want your name in the media in the state of Texas if you're Arkansas every chance you get.
Yeah, no, it's helped them to recruit more in Texas. It's helped them to recruit more into Oklahoma. Unfortunately, Oklahoma's come into Arkansas and grabbed a couple of Arkansas players. So, turnabout's fair play. But, no, I think it's been good exposure for Arkansas to go into Oklahoma. Coach Pittman has his ties to Oklahoma, and they've been able to go in there and get some nice players from the state. So it's worked out.
Yeah, it really has. Coach, when you think about recruiting, Terry Bowden one time called it the hat test. He said, if we're recruiting a kid, I think about how many hats he flies over from his home to at that time Auburn. If there were 6 different schools, he said that's 6 different hats. If you're Arkansas, you think about all these people from Arkansas that moved to Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston, and San Antonio, and Austin for jobs after school. Now their kids are coming back. It's a constant battle. Is Arkansas more Texas students or more in-state students? What cities in Texas is so big? Where would you start if you're Arkansas?
Well, I think it's a very interesting topic because I felt like when they got out of the Southwest Conference and went to the SEC, at that time it was a bad move for them. Coach Holtz told me one time that when they recruited an Arkansas kid, it sometimes took them 3 years to make a difference. When they recruited a Texas kid, that came in and made a difference right away. That was their lifeblood, recruiting the state of Texas. I mean, the size of it, the quality of the high school football and all of that, and the demographics of Arkansas. Go back and look at those teams in the 60s when they were competing nationally. 80% of them were Texas boys on that team. I mean, guys like Jimmy Johnson.
Beaumont. Yeah.
So when they got out, they lost that connection because the kids would come in and say, hey, you might not ever play in Texas. When they're your family. We're going to play over here in Georgia. We're going to play over there. Some guys that were on the staff back then were good friends of mine. And I remember they came over and signed Phillip Rivers as quarterback from over in the Carolinas. And it was just their recruiting base was just totally just different. And they had a hard time. And I think now with Oklahoma and Texas coming in, and you got Texas A&M's been in now for a while, they go back down into Texas now, and you recruit those families and say, hey, we're going to come down here and play 5 times in the next 2 years while your son's here. And it makes a little bit of difference. But I do think the local recruiting or the geographic thing, as opposed to national recruiting, it's changed a lot, Rob, because technology and travel and all these different things has made it so much easier for a kid to go a distance to a college and we could find them too. I mean, even before I got out, you sit in your office and watch 25 kids, just pull them up on the computer, and the staff sit there and watch 25 kids and rate them. You used to have to get in a car and go see those players in person or get their tape. And if it was videotape, the coach wouldn't let you take it because you didn't have it too. And then somebody would get it and they'd take it and you couldn't get it because the other high school coach had it. There's a lot of things that changed in the 45 years since I coached, but that it is still for a place like Arkansas, it is important that they can go down to Texas and get football players.
Yeah, and Wes, I met your chancellor back in October. I was up there with Jim and Pat McClellan, my friends from Little Rock, and boy, I was at 2 different functions with Chancellor Charles Johnson. He came and was on our show at the Sigma Newhouse Friday morning. That guy's from Houston. He's been in Arkansas 29 years. Man, there's 34,000 students up there. But Wes, I know you've got a busy day ahead of you. Tell people how they can keep up with you. We got to get you back on more often. And I know the Touchdown Club, y'all have got your schedule coming up and stuff. But thanks so much for checking in with us and being a part of this.
You bet. No, you can follow me on Twitter. It's Wes, 2 S's in Wes _more. Download the Buzz app. You can listen to our show every day, 1037thebuzz.com, or just download the app and you can listen to the show, and you can always see my TV work on fox16.com.
Hey, whenever the satellite tilts the wrong way, we get all the Little Rock stations instead of Memphis, and you're damn good at 9 p.m. You're fantastic. Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you this. Hey, it's happening now. All these local TV stations are going to this because of the battle with the cable companies. They'll take off this station and they'll take off that station. Well, now our TV stations are creating an app that you can download on your smart TV. And so you can watch any TV, station across the world. So you can go and download the Fox 16 KRK app, and you can watch us on your smart TV. And we're going to soon be streaming shows similar to this, to where I'll be just do a daily sports show for 30 minutes to talk, about what's going on locally. But you can watch our newscasts live when they're on throughout the day on your app, no matter where you are, no matter where you live. So you can start watching in Memphis.
Yeah, and by the way, Coach, he was the one who broke the Cal to Arkansas story on a Sunday after church. I remember that quite well. And he was on our show the next day. Great journalism, man. I love it.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks, Rob.
take care, man.
Man, it was a pleasure. Good talking to you, Coach. Y'all have a great
Nice to
day.
see you.
You do too. Hey, that is one of the best guys. And Coach, damn, your football knowledge. Every time I'm on here, I'm with Brendan and these people. They go, Coach Johnson, you're such a huge addition to this show. And that was a Gary Harris. You know, Gary was on our show back in, I guess, August. And he said, I said, who you got on today? He said, I got Coach Ellis Johnson. And then I was like listening to you. And I was like, man, I said, I know he's coached a lot, and fantastic having you on here. Let me say something real quick about a couple of our sponsors, Coach, and I'm going to come back for closing comments. LandersFordMemphis.com. They're sponsor of the Touchdown Club of Memphis again tonight. You're looking for something to do, time well spent. The Spring Speaker Series, Greg McElroy, national championship quarterback, great game manager, whatever you want to call him, from Alabama on ESPN, will be speaking tonight, 5:30 at the Hilton on Ridgeway Loop in East Memphis. Get there. And there'll be 3 more speakers coming up. Landers Ford open every day of the week except Sunday, 7 a.m., 7 p.m. Ask for Brad Bellamy, the general manager. You're worried about prices, tariffs, and all that kind of stuff. Don't worry. Worry is a waste of time. Okay, it's an absence of faith. Ask for Brad Bellamy, the general manager. They give employee pricing to their customers. Let them know you heard about it on the Sidelines. SEC Sidelines will give you $500 off. Ford employee pricing, and the 25 expeditions are in right down the street from our good friends at Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee, folks. Hewlett and Dunn. Brendan's got his Feral Sal Wild Boar boots on. They've got Anderson Bean, Olathe. They've got over 7,000 pairs of men's and women's boots in there. Filson, Barber, Duckhead, Old South, STS, Pendleton, Schaefer, cowboy hats, ball caps, Duckhead blazers, you name it. Men's and women's clothing, kids' boots. Again, 10 a.m., 6 p.m., Monday, as they say in the Deep South, through Saturday. I think there's a T in there somewhere, Coach. But anyway, proud to have them and blessed to have them as a sponsor. And I like this guy, Ike Oluwa. Well, do you pick nice players from Nigeria, if I may ask? These Nigerian kids coming over here, Coach, are amazing because they seem to have all played soccer growing up, and their footwork, their academics, they're kind of like the best thing in the world when they come in. But yeah, we're going to have to talk more about that, the impact that they've made. But Coach, closing comments.
Well, it's always a lot of fun to come on and meet these guys that I've never met before, or reconnect with some that I have. And I saw one up there. What did I say? Where did I say Phillip Rivers was from?
Oh, no, you were talking about I think that's Shoshone. He is from Athens, Alabama, because and his dad was his coach. No, you didn't get it wrong. You had it right. But no, let me tell you what, folks, Mother Teresa's right. We can all do something. We don't have to all do everything, but go out and do something great to help people every day of your life. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. So, Coach, no, you were right. He's from Athens, Alabama. A lot of people thought he was a linebacker or a tight end. I just know one thing. He was a hell of a quarterback in the college and the NFL. I think he's got like 11 kids and lives down in Fairhope, Alabama now, coaching at, I think, St. Michael's Catholic school that they've built down there. But thanks, everybody, for watching. For executive producer Brendan Martin, we'll see you tomorrow.